gang-stalking.
How do they hurt, like, women and grandmothers and kill people's pets?
Alex has told police the people were keeping him awake, using microwave vibrations and calling out his name.
They want highly intelligent people to be targets of this program. And some people are becoming the target of this matrix system of technological and signal intelligence and human intelligence control of the individual and of society.
And they're trying to improve on this weapon technology, and they need sample points.
They are selected for many different reasons. Often it is because they are isolated. They also tend to be people that are highly intelligent. They don't have a lot of money, friends, or family. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. But they will be organized stock. They will have career sabotage programs run against them. They'll be isolated from family and friends, character assassinations campaigns. They will be isolated slowly over time. False diagnoses of schizophrenia, manic depression, empowered individuals. Each individual fits the general profile that I'm describing. They normally have some sort of a free mind. So they're outsiders, they're what the government would call dissidents or revolutionaries or people that may be a problem. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. They're people that aren't part of the crowd, so to speak, in the way that they think. They will be organized stock. They will have career sabotage programs run against them to ruin their job. Some TIs have said that this kind of profile that all TIs fits is empowered individuals, and I would definitely agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Empowered individuals. Empowered individuals. Empowered individuals.
Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part...
In American tradition, we go from one pagan thing to another. It's just one after another. It's set up that way.
Shalom, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Fiery Trial. This is Sephora Green, and I started this one off with a quote, and I'm sure for those of you who have been following the podcast episodes, then you might recognize that individual. That is Mary Lake. That is a small snippet of an audio clip that I had included in one of those very first episodes that I did when I was just going full court press into attacking the Christmas, specifically Christmas. And in that that clip, she had shared how her family had, how a woman had threatened her. This was a woman who had multiple personalities, and one of the personalities had come forth and had threatened her that she was going to be able to do more harm to her because it was, as she had said, it was their day, meaning Christmas. And how at the time, how Mary didn't understand what she was referring to, or what that meant, because she had, like a lot of Christians, believed that Christmas was a Christian holiday, and that the love of Christ and all of that, what we're told on the surface, the goodwill towards men, that it would be really predominant and prevalent, and that would somehow like nullify the power of the enemy, or of these satanic occult groups and such that were messing with her. And yet, she realized by January that it was the exact opposite. So I had included that then because I was talking about because I wanted to explain again, why it's so dangerous for us who are dealing with targeting, who are dealing with gang stalking, and we find ourselves in that percentage that is choosing to deal with this through righteousness, through keeping the commandments, through just being a servant of the Most High. And if not a servant, then at least a sincere believer and follow her. But I just included this one snippet again because at the end of that audio clip, she made that observation that in Christianity in the United States, that the way that the system, the way our society is set up in terms of the customs and the traditions, you have a pagan holiday almost every month. Okay, I'm not. I don't have the calendar right now. I'm not, really thinking about it. But if I'm thinking about it, because the reason I'm doing this episode right now, obviously, if you're listening to this right now, then you know that this is before the Sabbath. I usually upload the episodes for the podcast usually on the Sabbath, but this is the middle of the week, and I'm trying to get this out before Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is. Okay, how does this work? We have, let's just start at the beginning of the holiday season. You have Halloween, which is October. Then you have Thanksgiving, which is in November. Then you have that entire Christmas season, the Christmas holiday, which is December, pretty much. It goes for the entire month of December. Then you have New Year's, which is in January, and now we're into February, so we're looking at Valentine's Day. And then in March it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, and then in Easter it's going to be, in April it's going to be Easter. Excuse me, and then in May it's going to be Mother's Day, and then June it's going to be Father's Day, and then July. So every month, every month there is a pagan holiday. Pagan traditions, pagan customs. There are, for many of them, there are actually certain foods, certain plates, meals that are associated with those holidays. There are certain specific activities or rituals that are associated with those holidays. It's non-stop, which is what Mary Lake had said, and I remembered her saying that, and I just wanted to include that because now we're looking at the 14th, which is going to be Thursday, and I'm doing this it is early Tuesday morning, so it's early in the morning on the 12th. And so I wanted to get this out before the 14th because I wanted to, for those of you who are following this, who understand what's going on, I just wanted to give you some quote-unquote ammo, which is basically knowledge, information, facts, truths. It's ammo, that we can use for ourselves in this spiritual war that we are in. Because as a Hebrew brother said, if you take this to the physical realm, meaning if you use physical tactics like punching someone, kicking someone, hacking into someone's computer, giving them hang-up phone calls because you think they're giving you hang-up phone calls, so forth and so on. If you move into the physical realm with this, then you've already lost the battle. You've already lost. This is a spiritual war, so we need spiritual weapons and knowledge, information, truth, facts, call it what you want. That is a weapon, and you can use these truths in conversation to share them with someone else and maybe bring someone else up to speed, or you can just have the information to rely upon for yourself. But we're looking at February 14th, Valentine's Day, and I'm telling you that it is pagan. I'm telling you that it is not a holiday that we should be worshiping or celebrating, if you want to use that word. We should not be, and it more so, doubly so, if you are a victim of targeting. Why? Because maybe I should just put that entire clip on again. I just took that snippet from it, but she was specifically talking about She was specifically talking about Christmas, but it applies for all of them. When we participate in these holidays, what we do is we open the door, we give the enemy and his minions and his followers, meaning these people who are practicing these pagan religions, okay, or idolatrous practices, we give them the legal right to come in and wreak havoc in our lives. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure I've said it before, but I'll say it again. At the heart of paganism, at the heart of idolatry, at the heart of New Age practices, at the heart of all of that is Satanism. He is the quote-unquote God of this world. Job 9:24. The world, the earth, the planet, whatever adjective you want to use, it has been given into the hands of the wicked. Not just the United States, okay? Not just North America, not just the Northern Hemisphere, am I using that right? Is it the Northern Hemisphere? Not just up here above the north of the equator, let's just say it like that. No, the entire world. And that observation, Job 9:24, that was made many centuries ago. We're going into millennia that observation was made, and it is true. So with that in mind, let me just say that I remember like a few years back I was working, this was years ago, I was working in a residential facility, and I came, my shift was starting, I got there a little early, and the worker was, her and some of the residents, they were just starting to, get things together, and clearly the first words out of one of their mouths just let me know that the workers had already been talking about me, because the first thing one of them residents said was, "Who has a problem with love? Gosh, what's wrong with love? What's wrong with love?" And they just let me know somebody had already told them, okay, so-and-so's coming on shift, and she ain't having none of that, okay? And so they knew, but they didn't know all of the facts. They just knew that Sephora doesn't like Valentine's Day, okay? But, they didn't know the full skinny. But, and you should know, Sephora does not support or like Valentine's Day, but I'm going to give you the skinny, and by the time I'm done, it is my hope that you will not be supporting it either. Okay, so let's if we look in Romans, sorry, if we look in Exodus, that's in the Old Testament, looking at chapter 20. If we look at let's just start at verse 3. So chapter 20, verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and shewing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Okay, that's Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 6. Okay. So the whole thing is important, but I think that for someone who is really new to this, okay, would never even know to make an association between Valentine's Day and the passage that I just read to you, let's focus in on, let's start with verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Now, when you serve them, that means you do for these deities what they want you to do, what they tell you to do, and they want to be honored. They want to be worshipped, which would be the first part. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them. They want you to bow down to them. They want to be worshipped, okay? They want you to erect altars. They want you to put on those altars items, objects that are associated with them. They want you to do rituals that are associated with them. They want you to eat the foods that are associated with them. They want you to give sacrifices to them. And the majority of them, from what I'm learning, the majority of them, they want blood sacrifices, either animal sacrifices or they want human sacrifices. And I know that many of you, well, let me just put it this way. Maybe it would be better to say, I guess, that many of you probably don't even associate blood sacrifices and the sacrifices of anyone, be it an animal or a person, with St. Valentine's Day. And that is where you are mistaken. Now, something that happens a lot is that many of these old, ancient, pagan practices and traditions, they have been cleaned up. Okay, one of the things that started to happen, you had two phenomenons going on that happened one after the other. You had the Roman Empire, okay, but then you had the fall of the Roman Empire, and you had the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire, which was basically carried out through or seen in the form of the Roman Catholic Church. That's why it was called the Holy Roman Empire. It was still the same empire. It's simply, this is just my opinion, it simply changed clothes. That's all it did. It just changed clothes. There was no longer the worship of Roman emperors, but you had the reverence was given to the Pope. Okay, the supreme leader of the Catholic Church. That's really what happened. And so many of when you look at the word Catholic, Catholic means universal. Basically what happened was a lot of those territories, those areas that were once under Roman occupation, what happened was a lot of those practices, a lot of those deities, they were embraced and worked into the Catholic religion. Names were changed. Some of the more heinous, the more outwardly obvious, overt pagan trappings and such, they were, as you would say, they were Christianized, they were whitewashed, okay, and the worship of them continued. Okay, and I use that if I did the video, the 4th of July. If you look at the origins of the 4th of July, that's a perfect example. What was once Midsummer's Eve, which was a celebration of just, lighting these bonfires at night and frolicking around them, pagans, having orgies and drinking wine and revelry and just, getting really, out of control. It was whitewashed, as they say, or Christianized, and they told the Christians, this is the celebration of the birth of John the Baptist, because John the Baptist was born supposedly 6 months before the Messiah. Okay, so they're saying that he was born in June, and then 6 months later, in December, you had the birth of the Messiah. So they were told that they were celebrating the birth of John the Baptist, and that the fires, they gave them these excuses, and it worked. And they believed it, and they were able to continue doing so. And the bonfires at night were attributed to, that's what they were called, St. John's Fire. It was just, when you look back in hindsight, you see just how blatant it was. How they just pulled the wool over these sincere Christians' eyes, how they just played them for fools. They really did. But then to add even more insult to injury, if you even want to look at it from this perspective, that was under, okay, I sometimes get it mixed up, but that was under the Julian calendar. So then they switched to the Gregorian calendar. Now I couldn't have that, I might have that backwards, and I apologize if that's the the case. But there is a, if I'm not mistaken, there is a, I'm going to say either an 11 or a 13-day discrepancy between the two. But when you, between those two calendars. But when you, so when you count out the number of days where the difference is between that Midsummer Night's Eve in the Julian calendar, when you count it out on the okay, see, I'm getting it confused. The Midsummer Night's Eve on the Julian calendar, when you count it out, I think it's, I want to say it could be 11 days or 13 days, or it might even be 7, I can't remember. But when you count it out on the Gregorian calendar, it falls on, lo and behold, July 4th. Okay, and so here in the United States, you have for countless generations now people who are celebrating what they think is Independence Day on the surface. They're celebrating the Independence Day of those 13 colonies, you know, the day that they broke away from Great Britain and gained their independence, and it's a patriotic day, and how dare you, you know, criticize or question, you know, how dare you not worship it. This is what they're told on the surface, that they're celebrating the Independence Day of these colonies. But when you do the actual counting, you know, and tabulation, you realize that what they're celebrating is actually Midsummer's Eve. They're simply celebrating it on the Gregorian calendar, okay? But you see how it was all Christianized and whitewashed, this original pagan holiday, and how it still continues, and how it still continues on the exact same day, but just by a different calendar. So look from that perspective, look at Valentine's Day in that same light. Look at how they did the same thing in getting countless of generations and thousands upon thousands of Christians to no longer celebrate or, you know, keep the Sabbath day, which is actually a feast day. They don't celebrate it now, but they celebrate what? The day of the sun, Sunday. And now you have countless Christians who will argue with you. They will go toe-to-toe with you. They'll tell you it don't matter and there's something wrong with you and you've got a problem and blah, 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 blah. I mean, on and on, on and on. It was originally part of the law, which was originally those sacred high holy days in accordance with the keeping of the law. A lot of those were changed and whitewashed and are just done away with, and they brought in these pagan holidays. They whitewashed them, they Christianized them, and that is what is happening today. And the same is true for Valentine's Day. But to prove this, I think that I'm just going to share with you the audio clips, and it should make it very clear. Okay, the first clip that I'm going to share with you, it's again, this first one is by this Gentile. He is talking about the importance of getting rid of idols, getting rid of objects that are basically connected to these other religions and to the esoteric belief practices and New Age practices, and why it's important to do that. And remember, the clip that I just put at the beginning of this, where Mary Lake is being interviewed by I forget the young woman's name, but she is it's from Now You See TV. Now You See Television. But they were talking about how it is that when we participate in this, we give the enemy the legal right to come in and wreak havoc in our lives. And the proof of that is here in Exodus chapter 20, looking at verse 5, the second part of that verse. If we read the whole verse through, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah the Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that these people who are unknowingly celebrating these pagan holidays, who are bringing these items that are associated with them into their homes, that are eating these foods that are associated with them, that are doing the customs and the practices. What they're doing is they are opening up a door. They're giving the enemy the right to come in and wreak havoc in their lives. Why? Because the objects, the rituals, the actions, the foods that they are partaking of belong to the enemy. They are in they're from his armory. Okay, let me put it another way. Another way that I said that in one of the other episodes was that when you participate in these pagan rituals and celebrate their pagan holidays, you're basically playing in their sandbox, and their rules apply. You can't go into somebody else's sandbox and then get upset when they enforce the rules of their sandbox. You can't go to somebody else's playground and play with their toys and play on their swing set and play in their jungle gym and then get upset when they start invoking and enforcing their rules. It doesn't work that way. What is it they're going to tell you? What is the playground monitor going to tell you? If you don't like the rules here, then you need to leave. And everyone likes to make the little joke, well, I'm taking my toys and I'm going home. Okay? But that is exactly what you do. You leave. Okay, if you do not, okay, look, one of the things that they do, they will curse you. They will use those objects. They will sit their little, okay, now I don't know exactly how this works, okay, because I don't do this stuff. But many of those objects, many of those statues, they have a connection in the spirit realm. Spirit entities that are associated with those objects recognize those objects. And so if you have one sitting in your home, okay, they can direct an entity that is connected with that particular holiday, deity, whatever, and send it to that object, and that entity can go into that object or into the environment where that object is at and do what it has been bidden to do. Okay, I mean, again, I don't know the exact, ins and outs of that and how it works, but I don't think I'm too far off the mark with that. Okay, so if you know that pagans curse people, if you know that pagans use objects to allow them to astral travel at night and travel directly to these objects, and when they reach the object, they just happen to be in your bedroom, and then they're able to do some things to you from that astral realm, you should probably get rid of the object. You should not. It's part of the rules of their playground. Okay, I hope I'm making sense, because I don't. Okay, like I said, I'm not involved in that. I don't do it, so I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But I don't think I'm too far off the mark. But basically, let me just say it again like this: don't go into their sandbox, play with their toys in their sandbox, and then get freaked out and upset and get your back up when they start enforcing their rules. Okay, but this guy, I'm going to play this first clip. He's going to explain it a little better, because basically what it boils down to is, if you don't want them doing that to you, you need to shut the door. You need to shut the door that is open, that is giving them the legal right to do so. The door that needs to be shut, when you shut the door, one of the ways that you shut the door is by removing those objects from your home, from your person, from your cubicle at work, from your car, okay, wherever it is that you have these objects, these posters, these CDs, these books, these little statues, the crystals, all of that, you need to get rid of them. Okay, you need to get rid of them. You need to not celebrate these holidays. Okay, that's basically what it boils down to in a nutshell. Now, because we know that satanic attacks is one of the weapons in the armory of the enemy, okay, which is, and another one is the gang-stalking. one of the forms of gang stalking is satanic attacks. They use them. Many of us are victims of this. Many of us know that they will attack us at night. They will walk through our dreams. We have felt the presence of them in our bedrooms, literally sitting on our bed, literally sitting on our chest, literally sexually molesting us, giving us weird dreams where we're seeing very disturbing, weird, haunting, lewd, disgusting, nasty, sick, twisted imagery. Okay, in the forms of nightmares. We know that there is an entity called an incubus, which is a female being that sexually preys on men. There is a succubus. Okay, again, I could be getting this backwards also. Okay, but one is a female sexual predator, spirit predator, and the other is a male sexual predator. Okay, we have dealt with them, and they are being sent to us by satanic stalker cray-crays. Okay, now one of the ways to shut that door, okay, so that they can't legally do it, is through not participating in the rituals and the worships and the worshiping of these deities and the celebration of their holidays. Another way to make sure that they can't legally do it is to not have these objects around in our homes, on our person. Get rid of the jewelry, the pendants. Get rid of the the t-shirts that have the weird satanic esoteric symbols and weird stuff on them. Get rid of all that. Get rid of the books, because a lot of times get rid of the CDs, because we know that again, if you watch some of these, if you start to do your investigations and research into this, one of the things that that has been revealed is that the master tapes for many of these, definitely music. I'm not sure how it works with movies. I'm going to assume that it's the same thing, and I've also heard this said about books as well. But one of the reasons it's even called a master tape is because that tape is actually prayed over by a certain, depending on the record label, a certain coven of witches and warlocks, and they direct entities to follow each and every copy that is made off of that master tape. And so when you have, and the same is said for books. I've heard this said about books as well. So when you have a copy of a book, an esoteric book, or a Gnostic book, or a book on witchcraft, or a book on, whatever, crystals, okay? Or when you have a CD, when you have these objects in your home, there is a spiritual entity that is attached to it. You are bringing a spiritual entity into your home, okay? And there it sits, doing whatever it is that it has been ordered to do by the individual who sent it, okay? And it could be anything from, I don't know, encouraging you to continue researching and practicing witchcraft. It could be there as a form of poverty, as a form of sickness, as a form of chaos, as a love potion. I mean, who knows? Okay, but the fact is, and that right there, the fact that you don't know, the fact that we don't know, because they don't tell us this stuff is done in secret. It's done, in the dark. We just simply go into the bookstore, or someone hands us the gift. We do a gift exchange at work. Okay, we do a gift exchange in the dorm. Okay, depending on where you're at and what kind of different social groups you have going on. And you have no idea. You might be able to say, well, I know I didn't give nobody anything with anything attached to it. I didn't attach some deity to the pair of socks that I, got for the gift exchange. I mean, you know that. But can you say that honestly about the gift that you've been given? Do you know for a fact that the Valentines that you have been given, that there is not something connected to it? The little pendant that's in there that you're supposed to then just pin to your little lapel and go around all day wearing this little heart-shaped thing, and you think, oh, this is just in the keeping of the Valentine's Day spirit. Oh, this is just about love. Well, there's an entity that might be connected and hooked up to that and traveling around with you, and you wearing it all day. All day, just got it perched right there on your bosom. Okay, and then you're in your car or you're on the bus going home, and then you're at home and you're taking it off and you're putting it on your dresser, you're putting it with the rest of your jewelry, and there it is. And then you wonder why your life just all of a sudden is just nothing but hell, and no connection is made between the Valentine's Day gift that you got from so and so. Just not even a thought that's what it could be. But you were in their you're in their playground, you're in their sandbox, and that is what they do. Okay? And while it might seem like a compliment, well, it's just about love. Maybe he really does have a crush on me, and he really just, oh, this could be so great. No, don't even, and that right there, thinking like that, that's probably the way the entity that's connected to the pendant is wanting you, is talking to you, is getting you to be okay with that. And I'm just using an example, a scenario. I don't know that this specifically has happened, but I'm gonna guess that it has. Okay, I don't know. Reality says that, yeah, this is how some of this stuff is done. Okay, but again, this audio clip, he's talking about the importance of getting rid of these things. And then the very next one, it starts to talk about, it's the origins of Valentine's Day. So just listen to this. Again, this is just ammo. This is just ammo that we have for our arsenal. Okay, we have for our arsenal in this spiritual war, we have truth. We have knowledge, we have facts that we can use, that we can share with others, or that we can use to just support our stand, okay? To support our reason for not wanting to participate. When someone says at work, or someone says, in the science class or whatever, oh, well, you didn't do any Valentines? Oh, why not? You can literally honestly say, well, that's not part of my religion. I just don't, I don't participate in that. And if they start, trying to push even further, which is what happened to me on many different occasions, it's just about love. Do you have any problems with love? Honestly, this is where I say, well, no, in all honesty, I'm a follower of the Messiah, and we do not worship or celebrate the holidays, the rituals of pagan gods, and that's actually about a god. It's a fallen entity, and then maybe that might be an opportunity to share some more information, and that person truly might not even know, and you have just done something for the Most High. And because the steps of the righteous are ordered, that might be the Most High set that in motion for you to wake that person up. That might be a seed that you have just sown for that individual, and maybe they won't act on it this year, okay, but who knows when that might come up again, just in their own thinking, just maybe, as they're just going about their days, that just might, come up. Wow, Valentine's Day, gosh, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I mean, you never know, okay, but truth, knowledge, facts, information, those are some of the weapons that are in our arsenal. Okay, listen to this.
Have you ever wondered why some books or objects feel inherently Hindu, or inherently pagan, or inherently esoteric? The reason is because these objects and books and tools, they are charged with a spiritual frequency that matches the delusion that powers are trying to create in the spiritual realm. And by holding on to these things, we are creating a bridge between these supernatural realities, what the Bible calls heavenly places that are ruled by demonic principalities, and our life, our home, our soul. And so in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of occult objects, why it's so important to get them out of your house, out of your life, and we're going to go through a list of things that you should either burn or just throw in the garbage. The reason why an object, an idol, a book can feel inherently Hindu is because of the spiritual signature, the spiritual vortex, if you will, that it is tied to in the astral realm, in the spiritual realm. And so principalities that have been set over Hinduism, for example, the false gods of Hinduism, we don't just interact with the demon gods, we interact with the spiritual playing field that the demon gods have worked night and day trying to create. And this playing field gets attached and yoked onto our consciousness and becomes a part of the lens that we see reality through. And occult objects and divination tools, they are the bridge between these false spiritual playing fields created by principalities and the natural world. It's how they infiltrate and advance their kingdom here. It's through these objects. And so just like everyone in the New Age believes, and just like every ancient culture ever believed, these objects aren't just pieces of decor. They contain intrinsic spiritual properties, and they are owned and overseen by demonic authorities. And so the question we should be asking ourselves is, what is a Shiva idol connected to in the spirit? What is a book like The Journey of Souls connected to in the spirit realm? What spiritual ties are there between this book and the spiritual powers that the Bible talks about in the book of Ephesians? The Bible says we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. And so these objects, what they're really meant to do is yoke your consciousness to a false spiritual delusion, energize you in this delusion. And because demons have legal ground, legal right to these objects in the spirit, what it does is it gives demons legal right to oppress you, to weigh on your spirit, your consciousness, your soul, an atmosphere in your house. And it can have just brutal effects on your spiritual health. For me, when I got saved, my house was still full of idols, and I couldn't figure out why some rooms in my house just felt so dark and scary. I didn't even want to go in there. It didn't feel like that until after I came to Christ, and then I would just look at a room in my house and I'd be like, I'm not going in there. It's because my room was full of idols and books, just like these ones, and I realized that these books are not just filled with false information, but that they are giving spiritual powers right of way into my life and into my house. Because the truth is, you can still live under the influence of an occult spirit even after being born again. And one of the main ways you open yourself up to this is by keeping these demonically charged tools in your house. This may result in some of the following symptoms: an unsound mind, a double mind, a cloudy head, feeling of disorientation or vertigo, a heaviness or a haziness in certain rooms in your house, a spiritual urge or addictive pull to go back into the occult, a weakness in the Holy Spirit, like you feel like you don't have an open heaven over your head, you can't connect with God properly. It can also result in nightmares, spiritual attacks, straight up demonic manifestations in your house, and last but not least, poor spiritual discernment. It's hard to have our discernment fully possessed by the Holy Spirit if we are under oppression from occultic spirits. And right now we're going to go through a list of things that should be burnt. And I recommend burning them because that's what they did in the book of Acts. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. Right now we're going to go through a list of some objects that will give these principalities legal ground into your life and into your consciousness and into your house. So the first thing is books. Occult books, New Age books, Gnostic books, esoteric books, Transcendentalist books, Hindu books, Buddhist books, yoga books, any books that advocate reincarnation, crystals, aliens, universalism, pantheism, the use of drugs, spiritism, sorcery, magic, mysticism, channeling, quote-unquote spiritual awakening, any false version of Jesus, Atlantis, theosophy, etc. I would also recommend including fiction books in here that contain these themes in them. It says in Galatians 5:20 that idolatry and sorcery are works of the flesh, and that those who practice these things will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. It further says in Revelation 21:8 that those who practice these things will have their place in the lake of fire. Or we could look in Deuteronomy 18, verse 12, where it says, whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. So God does not want us involved in these practices. These practices are worthy of hellfire precisely because it is communion with demons, as it says elsewhere in Scripture. And there are far better forms of entertainment out there that don't glorify the satanic kingdom. You're going to want to get rid of card decks, tarot cards, angel decks, ascended master decks, fairy and elf decks, fortune-telling decks, magic card decks, anything like this. You're going to want to get rid of idols and statues. Buddha statues, Hindu idols, dragons, fairy, elves, pagan gods, Greek mythology statues. There's a reason why idol worship is equated with demon worship in Revelation 9:20 and Deuteronomy 32:17. And it's because of what these idols are representing in the spirit and what they're linked to in the spirit. It's not because God's a bigot, it's because he knows what's going on. The next thing you're going to want to get rid of is crystals. Crystal balls, crystal wands, crystal jewelry, crystal stones, anything that's been used for divination, spiritism, and witchcraft. I'll do a whole video on crystals another time, but there's a reason why they're in every single metaphysical shop, so just chuck them. You're going to want to get rid of clothing items with pagan symbols, anything with all-seeing eyes or the flower of life, anything with a witchcraft symbol on it or an esoteric symbol. You're going to want to get rid of CDs, like meditation music, chanting, any music with occult, satanic, or esoteric themes. You're going to want to get rid of tapestries, jewelry, posters, movies and DVDs, trinkets, masks, dream catchers, incense, sage, pendants, anything like this. These things all play a role in opening up your spirit to being yoked, to being spiritually oppressed and energized in a delusion about who you are, about who God is, and about how spirituality works. They create ties between your consciousness and the principalities that have been set over these practices and over these worldviews, which makes it harder for you to see the truth because it's like having an extra set of blinders over your eyes. There's a really interesting scripture in Acts 19, verse 19, where it reads, "A number of those who had practiced magic arts brought their books together and burned them in the sight of all, and they counted the value of them and found it came to 50,000 pieces of silver." So this is about $10,000 worth of magic books, and they got rid of them permanently. They didn't donate them to other sorcerers. They didn't try to sell them and make a profit. We don't want to be recycling them back into the satanic kingdom to be used by other people to pervert other people's spirituality. We want to get rid of them permanently and just rid them off the face of the planet if we can by burning them. And you will have so much more peace and freedom and wholeness and clarity of mind when you rid your life from these objects.
As it turns out, the truth about Valentine's Day is far more sinister than most people realize. To find its true origins, we must go all the way back to ancient Babylon. It is here where the figure we know as Cupid emerges. The name Cupid comes from the Latin verb cupere, meaning to desire. Cupid was the son of Venus, the Roman goddess of beauty and love. Originally known as Tammuz and Ishtar, this mother and son couple are the progenitors of all pagan religions on earth today. In this ancient Babylonian writing, we can see the true identity of Tammuz revealed. Quote, "The little demons and the great demons cried aloud. Demons and their companions cried aloud. Our heroic Lord, he who was seized away, forsake us not. Tammuz, our Lord, was seized away, forsake us not." End quote. Yes, you heard that correctly. Tammuz is being referred to as the Lord of Demons. In this 1914 book entitled Tammuz and Ishtar, the author S. Langdon gives us more detail about the true identity of Tammuz. Quote, "The litanies and the theological lists refer to Tammuz by a title which occurs as frequently as any other, and which I have reserved for a separate treatment. For in this title we have evidence that this deity was connected with serpent worship. It is true that this connection is to be regarded as prehistoric and one which was forgotten in the age when our sources begin. For not only is Tammuz called the Great Serpent Dragon, but the same title is more than once applied to the Mother Goddess herself. The title in Sumerian is God, a name which is regarded by the theologians apparently as the most important of all the titles of Tammuz. The name should mean the Great Serpent of Heaven." End quote. The Great Serpent of Heaven. Where have we heard that before? Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." Mythology describes Tammuz as having both a cruel and a happy personality. He would use his invisible arrows tipped with gold to strike unsuspecting men and women, causing them to fall in love. He did not do this for their benefit, but to drive them crazy with intense passion, and to make their lives miserable and laugh at the results. Famously, Tammuz used the love arrow on his own mother, causing her to fall madly in love with him. Mother and son got married, and the story of Cupid was born. Quote, "In Babylonian religion, the earth goddess, was regarded as the mother and wife of Tammuz. That the sun should be also the lover of the goddess is explained on the assumption that in ancient society the imperial power descended through the female line. In that case, the heir to a throne is the daughter of a king. To retain a throne, the son of a king must marry his sister, or, failing a sister, his own mother. In the Sumerian myth, we have both circumstances represented. In the Egyptian version, Isis is the sister of her husband Osiris. In Sumer, the original myth represented the mother goddess as the mother of Tammuz. End quote.
Now, further down in the story, as Tammuz grows and becomes a man, Tammuz actually marries his mother, and they have a very sexual relationship. And that baby Tammuz and his mother Semiramis is where you get the story of Cupid.
So now that we know where Cupid comes from, let's take a look at Valentine's Day itself.
The association between mid-February and romance goes back to a pagan festival known as Lupercalia, likely honoring either Lupa, the she-wolf of Rome, who suckled Romulus and Remus, or Faunus, their god of fertility. The festivities began with an animal sacrifice. Then the ritualistic slapping of young women with strips of the animal's skin and blood to bestow fertility for the coming year.
Alberta Mildred Franklin writes this in her 1921 book entitled The Lupercalia. Quote, "These occasions are celebrated by the worshippers with extravagant orgies of mourning and of joy. In the death and the resurrection of the deity, the people find assurance of human immortality. Much of the homage offered by this agricultural people to its earth goddess consists of fertility charms to arouse the dormant powers of productivity or to secure rain for the crops. But often the goddess withholds her blessing and sends barrenness, blight, and pestilence upon her people. To avert these destructive forces and to set free all beneficent activities, the devotees resort to strange orgiastic practices. Often they seek to propitiate the dread goddess by the sacrifice of a human being." End quote. Most people are completely unaware of this link between human sacrifice and Valentine's Day. Let's continue. Pausanias, an ancient Greek geographer and historian, tells us that, quote, "A child was sacrificed, his blood sprinkled upon the altar, and his entrails tasted sacramentally by the priest. Thereupon, say the legends, he who had tasted the entrails was transformed into a werewolf for a period of 9 years." End quote. Werewolves, human sacrifice, incest, and orgies. These are all reasons why we should avoid celebrating Valentine's Day. But we're not done yet. As mentioned, the Romans celebrated Lupercalia to honor the hunter god Lupercus. To the Greeks, from whom the Romans had copied most of their mythology, Lupercus was known as Pan, the god of light. The Phoenicians worshipped the same deity as Baal, the sun god. Baal was one of many names or titles for Nimrod, a mighty hunter, especially of wolves. Defying God, Nimrod was the originator of the Babylonian mystery religions, whose mythologies have been copied by the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and a multitude of peoples around the world. Under different names or titles: Pan, Lupercus, Saturn, Osiris, Tammuz. Nimrod is the strongman and the hunter-warrior god of the ancients. Now, let's move on to the heart symbol and why we associate it with Valentine's Day and love. The title Baal means Lord or Master, and is mentioned throughout the Bible as the god of the pagans. God warned his people not to worship or even tolerate the ways of Baal. In the ancient Chaldean language, which is the original language of the Babylonians, Baal, which is similar to Baal, meant heart. So there you have it, historical proof that the holiday we know as Valentine's Day is nothing but an ancient ritual repackaged for modern times.
Okay, so there it is. We see where that sacrifice was definitely a part of Valentine's Day worship. That, in fact, an infant. You know, I mean, he explained very clearly that that they would kill the infant, and that the priest who were performing, that they would eat part of the infant's intestines. And now, if you want to believe the part about, you know, turning into the werewolf or whatever, I don't know. But I just know that what is consistently at the core of nearly every holiday that I am researching and investigating, one, there is always some form of a sacrifice, and two, sometimes many different types of sacrifice, because when we look at some of the other, there's another clipping that I might play depending on how long this episode goes, but what they would do, Valentine's Day basically kind of was the whitewashing over Lupercalia, and Lupercalia was where it was an outright pagan holiday that basically involved the killing of goats and dogs, and then strips of flesh were taken, and the men, it was men who would have these strips of flesh of, you know, this freshly killed animal, and they would run around beating the women. Okay, beating them. And again, when you look at the origins of this stuff, I mean, it is just, some of it is really just disgusting. But this is what we have been, many of us, you know, our family members, our friends, our loved ones, they have been tricked into worshiping this. And so, again, imagine this is what was on my mind when these individuals, when I came up into work, you know, this was a couple of years ago, and they had been simply told, you know, something, you know, Zipporah just she doesn't really celebrate holidays, so she's really not going to be really supportive of you guys putting up your Valentine's Day decorations and celebrating Valentine's Day. And the words out of their mouth, who has a problem with love? Who would have a problem with love? And they don't know. Because that's the whitewashing, that's the trick, that's the hook. See, again, if you remember what I read in Exodus chapter 20, verse 5, the Most High said that if you do this, if you start to worship these other deities, if you start to serve them, and when you're celebrating their holidays, you're serving them. They want you to serve them. They want you to celebrate. They want you to do the rituals, the activities that are associated with them. So that means if there is a fertility god, you are going to be involved in sexual promiscuity. You're going to be involved in adultery. You're going to be involved in fornication. Okay? Because that's how you serve them. You're doing what they want you to do. When you sacrifice on those altars, you are serving them. They want that blood. They want that soul of that individual that you're killing, or of that animal that you're killing. And then to take it even one step further, it's an infant. And then even worse than that, you're eating the entrails, the intestines of the infant. Okay? I mean, and so what is it the Most High said? That He has punishment for doing that. That He will visit the iniquity of those individuals upon their third and their fourth generation. Okay, so you think of the many of us who we have ancestors who have been doing this, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-great-great-great, 25, 30 generations removed, and this becomes part of a cycle. This becomes intergenerational. This is what the enemy wants. And so this is what was on my mind when these people were sitting up here. Well, gosh, who would have a problem with love? What's wrong with love? Because that's the hook, and that's where they stay at on the surface. But they don't understand that because of the legalism, because the Most High is an Elohim of order, okay, because He obeys His own laws, those individuals who are doing that, they're going to have to suffer a penalty because of that. The iniquity is going to be visited now upon their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. Why? Because they celebrated Valentine's Day. And that seems almost kind of whimsical. That seems kind of trite that the Most High would do that. But again, which is why I share with you the actual origins, and you can see that it isn't trite. It's not trite that they're sitting up here doing infant sacrifice. That is not trite. It is not trite that they're going out and sacrificing goats and dogs and taking the flesh, cutting it off into straps, and then running around with the bloody flesh beating women. Okay, come on. There is nothing trite about that. And then those women, and then what they're told is, well, if they hit you with the flesh, well, then you're going to become fertile. You're going to be able to have children. And then they go out and they have sex. Okay, I mean, this is, it just gets all, it gets all intertwined. And it gets all convoluted and confusing, okay? But what the Holy Roman Empire, what they did, they Christianized it, okay? They whitewashed it. And then there's other audio clips I have where they talk about an actual individual, Saint Valentine's, who was a priest who was marrying people in secret because there was a Roman Pope who he banned marriage because he had some wars that he needed to fight, and the majority of the soldiers in his army were single men, and one of the ways that some of the men were getting out of being in the army was that they would get married. So he banned marriage. And Valentine supposedly is a priest who was marrying people in secret. He got caught doing it. He got jailed. He was tortured. And he was beheaded. And so because of that, they commemorated him. They turned him into a saint. You know, they canonized him, turned him into a saint. And they put the celebration of his day just happened to be on the same day of the Lupercalia. Okay, so I mean, so again, you can see the trickery involved in that, and to get these people for generations, for centuries, to come on board with this, to celebrate what they think is love, what they think is innocence, what they think is just, you know, just the celebration of one of the most tenderest, most sacred feelings that humans can ever feel. And here these, you know, these messianic, fanatic cray-crays are sitting up here opposing love. You know, can you see the deceit? Can you see the treachery, the spiritual treachery in that? Okay, I'm sure that you can. But I'm going to put on this second clip, and some of it is going to be a repeat, but he's going to explain what is going on in terms of the roses. And let's see, he talks about the roses, and I think again he goes into more detail, I think, about the heart, and also about more about Cupid. That because we know that the Greek culture, which was basically, they took a lot from the Egyptian culture, but a lot of the Romans, they idolized and adored Greek culture, so they basically had their counterparts. So where you had Cupid, who was, I think, was the Roman deity, but he was the equivalent of Eros, who was, and that's Eros, Eros, who was I believe, the Greek god of love, or a form of love, of the erotic love. But he goes into explaining a lot of this as well, and this is important. And the only reason we would need to concern ourselves with this, the reason why I look at this, is because I know that, again, that as a victim of gang stalking, and most definitely being a victim of that component involving the satanic attacks, I need to make sure and keep my guard up. I need to make sure that all these legal doors, legal windows are closed and boarded up and shuttered up, that they cannot get in through those means. Okay, and so I need to find out as much information about it as I can. And I'm going to share just one more verse before I put on this this next audio clip. And this is in let's turn to 2 Thessalonians. It's in the 2 Thessalonians in the New Testament. I always get it mixed up with okay. Colossians, 1 Thessalonians, and then 2 Thessalonians. Ta-da! Okay, and this is in chapter 2. And basically it's talking about, this is the passage that talks about the prophecy about the falling away. Now, the part that I wanted to share is, and you can read through the whole passage, But let's just start at verse 5. Remember ye not? Okay, this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, starting at verse 5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So let's read that one more time. And for this cause, okay, what's the cause? That they don't have a love of the truth. Okay, verse 11. And for this cause, Elohim shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. Basically, he's going to give you what you want. You don't want the truth anyways. So what do you care? It's not like you love the truth and somebody's keeping it from you and you're upset. You don't want the truth. You don't love the truth. So you don't want to know what's really going on. You don't want to know that the Most High said that he would send punishment, okay? That the people would suffer to the third and fourth generation for the iniquity of, or the sins, the iniquity of their fathers. They don't want to know that, okay? And one of the ways that we're being tricked into being involved in iniquity, wickedness, idolatry, is by someone telling us, creating a holiday where we're told, well, this is about love. This is really just about love and giving, Valentine's as a token of love to the person that you love. Because it's all about love. Nothing else to see here, folks. It's just about love. Okay, that they're tricking you. Okay, well, you don't want that. You don't want to hear that. Okay, what's going on underneath that is that you are serving a deity, you are worshiping the holiday that they want you to worship, and as a result of that, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, and perhaps even further, are going to have to deal with that. They're going to deal with idolatry and witchcraft in their lives. They're going to be victims of that. They're going to be the victims of satanic altars. They're going to be the victims of paganism. Okay? They're going to have to suffer the iniquity in their lives. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But you don't care about it anyway, so we'll just give you the illusion that it's really about love. And he said that he will send you strong delusion so that what? So that you should believe the lie. You will believe the lie. Okay? But see, we can't afford to do that. We, as victims of gang-stalking, who have decided that we want to walk this out in righteousness, okay? That we want to have life and have it abundantly, but we don't want to compromise it. We want to get the blessings of the Most High. We want His protection. We want the fruits of His Spirit with us. So therefore, we're going to have to learn the truth, accept the truth, and make changes in our lives so that we keep falling under the grace and the mercy of the Most High. Okay? So that means we'll sit and listen to 5, 6, 7 videos, okay, and listen to different people's research on these pagan holidays and get to the bottom of the truth. We'll ask the Most High to send us the spirit of discernment so that we can discern between which one is telling us the truth or the information is a bit more accurate in this video and which one is not. We're going to do that because we want the truth, because we want to be able to know what it is that we're walking into. Okay, is this a benign holiday or is there something else going on? Look at some of the other holidays that are coming up. What about President's Day? What about Martin Luther King Jr.? What about Cesar Chavez? These are holidays. Are they just randomly picked to fall on any day and it doesn't really matter? Or is there something else beneath the surface that is going to be occurring while the majority of people on the surface will be celebrating MLK Day? Is there something else that we need to know about? And I know now there's probably some people, now she messing with Martin Luther. Now she messing with Dr. King. Oh, she wrong for that. Well, you look. No, we cannot afford to play with this. We truly cannot afford to play with this. We have to be willing to turn over every single stone when we are trying to come out of Babylon. What did he say? Come out of her, my people. Okay, look at that. That is in. Let's turn to that one. Let's turn to that one. I'm referencing a verse in the book of Revelations, chapter 18, verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Okay, and just reading down, let me see if I can find it a little further down, where he gives a description. He makes it very clear as to why it is that we need to come out of her. Chapter 18, verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Okay, every foul spirit. Every foul spirit. This ain't no joke. This ain't no playing around. This is, you cannot have the attitude, oh well, I won't celebrate Easter and Halloween and Christmas, but hey, come on, there's nothing wrong with Valentine's Day. That's just about love. No, we can't afford to be that way. We cannot afford to be that way, because look, if on a spiritual level, if they're putting whitewashing out there and messing with us, what do you think how is it that some of these stalkers are able to mess with us? What do you think they're doing? Okay, we really need to we have to be able to set boundaries and stand by those boundaries. Look, let me just give you an example, something that happened. This was a few years ago. I was at a bus stop. It was Valentine's Day, and a fellow pulled up to the bus stop in a car. He had a bouquet of yellow roses, and he was like, hey, it's Valentine's Day. Would you accept these if I give these to you? And I had never seen this man before in my life. I have no idea what that was about, but I just simply said, no, thank you. I don't really celebrate this holiday. No, thanks. I'm sorry. And he just, kept on going, But there was a time in my life when I was much younger, as a codependent, without any type of a sense of self, where I would have just been really just like, one, scared because I didn't want any problems from anybody, so I would have taken it out of fear, or two, seeing that as some type of a strange form of a compliment and taking it. Okay, but now, no. This happened, victim of gang stalking, already, not trusting anybody. You come up to me at a bus stop, I don't care how benign it is. I don't care if he had 15 bouquets of yellow roses. I was not going to accept them. I don't know what that was about. I truly don't know. I don't know if that was someone who had been conned into doing that by some of my perpetrators. But somebody had said, hey, okay, there's going to be this black chick, she's at the bus stop here on such and such a street. I want you to take these yellow flowers and give them to her. Now, who knows what would have happened if I had taken those flowers? Did the flower, that it was roses, did that mean anything? Was there some type of weird symbolism because they were yellow as opposed to red, as opposed to white? I have no idea. I did not accept them. And I don't even, hey man, I don't know. But my point is that, again, and it was just something else that I talked about in those videos, on those episodes that I did around Christmas. Being able to say yes when we mean yes, and no when we mean no. And especially because this is a holiday where the coercion, the manipulation, the playing on feelings. Oh, what's wrong with love? Oh my gosh, he just wants to give you a Valentine's Day. Are you kidding me? With everything that you've been going through, why would you have a problem with that? Okay? And many of us, again, because we're dealing with isolation, because we're victims of gaslighting. And love, who doesn't want to be loved? Who does not want to be accepted? Who does not want to be included? The temptation to accept the Valentines, to be a part of whatever gift exchange or Valentine's exchange, and go out and get a card and just sign it and hand it over. No, you can't. As benign, as innocent as it seems, remember that it's not. Don't get duped. Don't get tricked. I'm telling you, the heart-shaped box filled with chocolates, okay, that's the hook. That's the hook. And I hate to be graphic like this, but if this is what it takes to get you to be able to say no and step back, then remember this. Remember the baby, okay, that somewhere, okay, in this country on February 14th, there are babies that are being sacrificed, that their blood is being, look, go back, play it one more time. Do you want me to do it again? Do you want me to play that little clip so that you get that somewhere in this country, in some grove, in some basement of a church, on some weird high-rise rooftop, okay, in some city, individuals are gathering around an altar and they are sacrificing an infant and they are going to be eating of its intestines. That's what's going on. You think they stopped that part too? What? What? Are you kidding me? Okay, I can tell you the things that they're doing on Halloween, and you have no doubt. You don't doubt that. You believe that. Oh yeah, totally. We know those guys, those cray-crays. We know they're doing something on Halloween. But what? Because they've whitewashed and they've masked Halloween with love, with little babies, chubby white babies with diapers on. Okay, that somehow, well, they wouldn't be doing that on this holiday. They just look, they got babies shooting arrows through hearts, and you refuse to believe that they're sacrificing babies? Come on now, no, we cannot afford, we as victims of gang stalking cannot afford to be that stupid, okay? I'm talking to you in the same way that I talk to myself when it comes to putting up a boundary. Think about that. Me, not having friends, not having relatives that I would even trust, being at a bus stop on a day where there was so much quote-unquote love in the air, when by seeing people, couples walking by with bouquets of flowers, smiling and happy, people having literally the heart-shaped boxes with the candies, and up pulls a guy with a bouquet of flowers. This was a good-looking white dude. This was not some ugly-looking, scary cray-cray. Okay? No. This was a handsome man with a bouquet of yellow flowers who pulled up to that bus stop and smiled. Just had one of them smiles. Hey, this is Valentine's Day. Would it offend you if I offer these to you? Would you be willing to take these? No, I'm sorry. I really don't celebrate this, but thank you. I'm sorry. And I kind of took a couple of steps back, and he's just like, okay, and just drove on. And maybe he found someone else to give them to. I don't know. Or maybe he went around the corner and tossed them out the car. I have no idea. But being able to have that sense of self, my wanting to protect myself, my wanting to keep my salvation intact, helped. Okay, and at that point when I did that, I didn't know about the child sacrifices that were happening on St. Valentine's Day. I had no clue. Okay, but now that I know, I praise the Father even more that He had already given me the ability to say yes when I mean yes and no when I mean no. That I wouldn't just take it, because he was really nice and I didn't want to offend him. Gosh, and that was just so sweet. And what if he had gotten upset? And what if he had jumped out and physically assaulted me? I didn't want any problems with people, so I just took the flowers and then set myself up. Okay, to suffer what? The iniquities of my fathers upon me? No, sir, not going to happen. And if you think Zipporah's just being dramatic, well, then you go ahead and you do that. But I'm telling you that we need to really set up our boundaries and take care of ourselves and learn to say yes when we mean yes and no when we mean no, because of things like this. A holiday that just seems so benign on the surface. This is Valentine's Day. This is love. Do you know how someone listening in on this, who is not tuned in to the gang stalking, let alone who's not tuned in to the paganism, the idolatry that's going on just beneath the surface in this culture, do you know how crazy this must seem to them? This must just seem really out there. But I'm telling you that this is not a holiday that we should be celebrating. We shouldn't be. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you're being gang stalked, you shouldn't be doing it, and if you're not being gang stalked, you shouldn't be doing it. For those of us who are being gang stalked, we need to really make sure and keep our boundaries. We need to really make sure and have our defenses. We need to have all the doors locked and shut. We need to have all of the windows shut and boarded up. And I'm talking about in terms of our lives, in terms of the spiritual entries that people can, that entities can make into our lives if we mistakenly give them the legal right to do that. And how could we mistakenly give them the legal right to do it? By participating in this holiday, by accepting some trinket, some gift, or by giving one when you step into their sandbox, when you step into their playground. Hey, their rules apply. Okay, their rules apply. But let's just listen to this. This is by his channel is called Truth Unedited. It's a really good ministry, and he does a lot of good research. And just listen to what he has to say about the origins of Valentine's Day. Let's give this one a listen to.
It's important that as we live out our days, we grow in knowledge. It's always a mistake to partake in customs and celebrations that we do not know the history of. Embracing traditions that we do not know the history of can often lead us in celebrating false deities and make us out to be hypocrites to what we truly believe. Knowledge is power, and regardless of what you choose to do, whether you decide to take part in certain customs and traditions is your choice. My purpose in these subjects is to fill the gap where our education system seems to drop the ball. I will give you the background history of traditions that many of us blindly accept without really understanding. One of these traditions is Valentine's Day. For most people today, Valentine's Day is just regarded as a secular, commercial day of love. A date where people show their significant other that they love them, because someone else did a long time ago, and it just grew in acceptance over time. Basically, because days like Valentine's Day just show up on our calendar, and the retail big businesses start marketing to us, we just accept this day and look at it as harmless and partake in it. I mean, Valentine's Day is a huge day for business. It is estimated that in America alone, the country as a whole spends an average of $18.5 billion on Valentine's Day every year. But if you ask people why, you would most likely receive silence as an answer. Everyone knows that we celebrate love on Valentine's Day, but most people don't know exactly why we do, and why it's even called Valentine's Day. So I think that's something that we should correct. Let's examine it. Let's begin. So where did Valentine's Day come from? Many people think that it's just one of those American holidays that we just partake in. It's just something that we as Americans do. But the celebration of Valentine's Day is not American. Others like to believe that it is a Christian holiday because it was named after a Christian saint by the Roman Catholic Church. But the truth is that Valentine's Day was made by the Roman Catholic Church to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia. Lupercalia was one of the most ancient Roman festivals, which was celebrated every year in honor of Lupercus, the god of fertility, also known as the god Faunus. This festival, which celebrated the coming of spring, included fertility rites, orgies, fornication, sex with minors, drunkenness, and other activities like the pairing off of women with men by lottery. Lupercalia was a fertility festival dedicated to Faunus, as well as to the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. During this time, the winter solstice is long gone, and the pagans are now seeing that the days are getting gradually longer. This was one of the most important fertility festivals for pagans. The festival was held on the 15th of February in the Lupercal, where Romulus and Remus were said to have been nurtured by the she-wolf. The place contained an altar and a grove sacred to the god Lupercus. In Lupercal, the Luperci, who were the priests, assembled on the day of Lupercalia and sacrificed goats and dogs. These animals were known for their strong sexual instinct, making them most appropriate sacrifices to the god of fertility. Then the Luperci cut thongs from the skins of the sacrificial animals and ran in two bands around the Palatine Hill. They would whip any woman who came near them. A blow from the thong was supposed to make a woman fertile. It's said that young women would actually line up for the men to hit them. Now, if you just dig a little deeper, you can understand further what is being celebrated. Lupercalia is believed to be connected to the ancient Greek festival of Arcadian Lycaea and the worship of Pan. Lupercalia is the Roman form of worship of the Greek god Pan. Pan can be traced to the sun god Baal. He is the horned god. And we know Baal is none other than Nimrod. Nimrod was the original Lupercus. The Lupercalia, the festival of the Romans held during the time we know today as Valentine's Day, was a festival to honor Nimrod, just in this Roman form. This is paganism. In ancient pagan Rome, the month of February was sacred to Juno Februata, the goddess of the fever of love. Juno Februata was also the goddess of women and of marriage. February 14th was her festival day. A box was provided from which single men could draw a billet, a small piece of paper on which a woman's name was written. The couple would then form a temporary liaison for the erotic games to follow. Sometimes they would remain partners for the following 12 months. Marriage sometimes resulted from this practice. So these days were used to celebrate fertility in ancient pagan Rome. It was a pagan festival day that goes back to the honoring of Nimrod. This was what happened during this time in ancient history. So where did the name Valentine's Day come from? Valentine's Day is said to be named after a few Christian martyrs who the Roman Catholic Church named saints. According to one story, Roman Emperor Claudius II imposed a ban on marriages because too many young men were dodging the draft by getting married. At that time, only single men had to enter the army. There was a Roman physician and priest who had converted to Christianity when it was a persecuted religion. His name was Valentinus of Terni, and according to some of the stories, he used to marry Christian couples in secret. It was said he wore a ring with a cupid on it, which is used as a symbol of love. We'll cover that soon. The ring helped soldiers recognize him. When he was exposed, he was imprisoned, tortured, and beheaded. Later, he became a martyr and the patron saint of true love in marriages. While awaiting execution, he was visited by young lovers with notes about how much better love is than war. Some think of these love letters as the first Valentines. Valentinus' execution occurred on February 14th in the year 269. Later on, after Rome adopted Christianity and the Roman Empire fell, and the Holy Roman Empire began, the Roman Catholic Church made changes. The Church was opposed to this display of open eroticism and sensuality that occurred during Lupercalia. In the 5th century, Pope Gelasius declared February 14th a holy day in honor of Valentinus, instead of the pagan god Lupercus. As with most non-biblical customs found in the church today, Lupercalia was simply given a Christian-sounding name and adopted into the Universal Catholic Church. They adopted some of the pagan celebrations during Lupercalia to reflect Christian beliefs. For example, as part of the Juno Februata ritual, instead of pulling girls' names from boxes, both boys and girls chose the names of martyred saints from a box. They were expected to emulate the life of the saint whose name they had drawn. And this is where we get Valentine's Day from. It was a rebranding of a pagan festival worshiping fertility. They did this to make it easy on the pagan converts who were coming into their new popular Christianity. These pagans were unwilling to give up their satanic pagan rituals. So instead of putting a halt to the growing paganism of the church, the Romans took the approach of blend and incorporate. But changing the name of a pagan ritual doesn't change the fact that it is still a pagan ritual. So this is where Valentine's Day comes from. It is completely pagan. During the Middle Ages, it began to be incorporated with love. And that's where much of what we know of it today comes from. But let's look at some of the symbols that are used today with Valentine's Day. The red rose. You think this flower was just chosen because it is beautiful? Not at all. Venus was the Roman goddess of beauty, love, fertility, and sexual immorality, such as prostitution. She was the Roman equivalent to the Greek goddess Aphrodite. Venus is the mother of Cupid. Her favorite flower was the red rose, which then associated the red rose with love. Because Valentine's Day became associated with love, in honor of the pagan goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, the goddess of love, red roses became synonymous with Valentine's Day. Just remember, if you look up most customs of today, you will often find a pagan god in connection with it. Does this mean it's pagan to love a red rose? Obviously not, but you should know why it is connected with Valentine's Day. Buying red roses for your loved one does not make you a pagan. I want to make that clear. Cupid. Most people don't know this because he's often portrayed as a little baby boy. But Cupid is a pagan god. Like I said earlier, his mother was the goddess Venus. He is a counterpart of the Greek god Eros. According to the myth, Cupid was the son of Mercury and Venus. Mercury being the winged messenger of the gods, and Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. Cupid often appeared as a winged infant carrying a bow and a quiver of arrows. Legend has it that Cupid shoots magical gold-tipped arrows at both gods and humans. By piercing their heart with an arrow, he causes individuals to fall deeply in love. This is why you always see a heart with an arrow. It's a representation of the pagan god Cupid. He is portrayed today as a little cute, chubby cherub with a bow and arrow, ready to shoot people and infect them with pangs of love. But he is an ancient pagan god. He is not just a little cute baby with an arrow. When you reference anything with him, you are participating in pagan beliefs. This is why he is associated with Valentine's Day, because it is a pagan holiday. Now, just the lustful nature of Valentine's Day as a whole is according to the pagan ritual of fertility. This is the time where people would gather their lovers for the year. This is not a day to get caught up in. Everything surrounding this day is pagan. It was then rebranded as a Christian holiday, and today it is looked at as secular, but it is not so. Anytime you have holidays that are connected with pagan gods, if you are a believer in Yahshua, you must completely abstain from them. Today, it is marketed as a day of love, but it is completely, again, a pagan holiday. Many of its customs and practices have changed and evolved over time. But at the heart, it's all about pagans and their gods, a way of celebrating them. It goes back to Nimrod. It's very easy to get lost in the crowd and just partake in it, because that's what the majority is doing. Because they make it seem as if it's secular and does not have any deity attached to it. It's just about love and fun. But a simple understanding of Cupid clearly shows that that's not true. For a believer in Yahshua, we are called to be set apart from the world, not following the crowd. We are not to be of this world. Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2 says, "Do not learn the way of the Gentiles." We are to learn the ways of our Father. We should not follow pagan activities just because the world makes it easier for us to do so. The Apostle Paul tells us in Colossians chapter 2 verse 8, "See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary matters of the world, and not according to Messiah." We must protect ourselves from the ways of this world. Valentine's Day is not a major day, but it still is a pagan holiday. It's easy to overlook. Listen, if you want to set aside a day to tell your husband or wife that you love them, pick another day and time to do this. You do not need to celebrate with the world. If the world tells you that February 14th is the day you are required to show your wife or your husband how you love them, make sure you don't. Remember, you are not of this world. It is a pagan holiday, and as we are all trying to strengthen our relationship with the Father, when we remove our association with these practices, we will see our relationships grow.
Well said. That was from the ministry Truth Unedited, and I think he really made it clear as to why we really truly do not want to participate in any of the rituals or anything surrounding this holiday or any of these pagan holidays, and more so for us as victims of gang stalking. And the reason stays the same. The holidays are changing. It's a different holiday, but the reasons stay the same. The reason that I'm giving for this as to why I stay away from them is because being a victim of gang stalking, especially that satanic element that they use, and having, just dealt with that, for many years, and now finally understanding that one of the ways that they were able to truly do this to me, to victimize me, on a satanic level, was because I was legally giving them the right to. I was, when I was participating in these holidays and buying and giving and receiving gifts and just all of it, I was in their playground. I was in their sandbox, and they had every right to violate me, to put me through all of the, the sick, twisted, satanic stuff that they do. But not anymore. I have an understanding of what's going on. I am walking this narrow road with the grace and blessings of the Most High, being covered by the blood of the Lamb, having His light shine on this road in front of me, showing me the traps, the pitfalls, the snares. And so now, as a result of that, I refuse to be a part of that. I refuse to let my guard down. I refuse to leave those doors open. And it gets, and it's hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm being a victim of the gang stalking and just the isolation that comes with it, and just, you know, the gaslighting, and just feeling really just the alienation from it. And then on top of that, this is a holiday where love is really promoted. And just seeing, I mean, just this morning, you know, coming home, there was a woman walking, you know, on the, she was in the train station. She had a lovely bouquet of flowers. And there's going to be more. I mean, today's the 12th, so 13th to 14th, I mean, it's going to be amped up. I mean, going into these stores, there's going to be, I doubt there's going to be any store that doesn't have some type of Valentine's Day memorabilia in it. I think that's going to be really hard. And so, I mean, I was listening to some just different videos and such, and just editorials and by different individuals who were not even dealing with, you know, the satanic origins of Valentine's Day, or, you know, issues around, you know, gang stalking and being targeted. They were just simply talking about Valentine's Day itself, and some of them were literally attacking the holiday, saying that, you know, that they feel like this pressure that somehow it's supposed to be that couples are supposed to be venerated, but singles are supposed to be shamed, and just everything, just the money that's going to be spent, just the statistics that $1.9 billion was spent in the United States for flowers alone. I think that was a while back. I think that was like 2013, and that same year for Valentine's Day, $4.4 billion. Wait a minute, $4.4 billion was spent on diamonds, gold, and just, you know, jewelry alone for that particular holiday. I mean, so the pressure is on. So imagine, you know, even more so for us, you know, where we, you know, when we're, especially for those of us who don't even understand that we are being gang stalked. Think of those who are victims of this who don't even know it. Okay, remember, like I said, you know, I have been dealing with this for years, and just building up my own tough skin, building up my own boundaries through research, through just the blessings of the Most High, reaching, you know, a place, you know, of just, for me, you know, strength and understanding, and learning that there was a name for this. I only learned that about, what, May of last year, of 2018. And so think of those who don't know, and who are dealing with the isolation, who are dealing with the loneliness, and just everything that goes with it. And now here they are, this holiday is come up. Man. And what is it that the Most High says? And I've shared the scriptures so many times. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. When we have the knowledge, and that's why I'm saying that one of the, you know, along with fasting, along with prayer, you know, having those as weapons in our armory, you know, as part of our arsenal, we need to definitely include knowledge, information, facts, as a way to arm ourselves, as a way to defend ourselves, so that we don't end up being destroyed, and, you know, and not even understanding why, not even being able to associate what we're dealing with in terms of being stalked, being tormented, and I'm talking spiritually, I'm talking the satanic attacks, because we're looking at the satanic origins of this particular holiday and all of these holidays. And whether we're talking about paganism, whether we're talking about idolatry, whether we're talking about New Age, esoteric, at the core of it all is Satanism. Okay? And this is a spiritual war, and Satan and his minions, those are the enemies that we're contending with. They're on the other side. They are the kingdom of darkness. We are the kingdom of light. We follow the Father of lights, who is Yahuwah, who sits on the throne, who sent his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua the Messiah, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm just making this very clear so that there is no misunderstandings. But yeah, so I think I'm going to end this episode right here. I just wanted to really get this out quickly. Today's the 12th. I hope that this episode definitely helps you, that some of the information will help you arm yourself, so when you do go out for the rest of the day, into tonight and tomorrow and the day after, that you'll have some strength, that you won't feel pressure, that you won't feel embarrassed or ashamed, because you understand that you are going to be the uncomfortableness, the strangeness of this. It's only going to last for a day. Okay, and remember that part in this also, that these same people, okay, because remember, a lot of these satanic cray-crays, they wear masks. They work from the shadows. They have to fake it in order to make it. They want to draw close to us so that they can hurt us, so they have to wear a mask. So some of these people, some of these individuals who are going to be coming up to you with Valentine's Day this, and what are you doing? We're going to get together for this, for some drinks and da-da-da-da-da-da, with the little heart-shaped box with the candies. They might even offer you some of the candy. Some of them are perpetrators, and they're wearing masks. Okay, just remember that. Okay, don't forget that they don't stop stalking us on holidays. Okay, they are stalking us 24/7. They do not stop for weekends. They do not stop for holidays, be they major holidays or minor holidays. Okay, so we need to keep our guard up, and we need to understand that once this day ends, once Valentine's Day is over, they're going to go back to doing the same thing. The only thing that's going to change is the day on the calendar. That's the only thing that's going to change. And maybe their tactic, maybe their approach as to how they try to get in, to see if they can find some chink in the armor so they can get in to mess with us. Maybe their approach might change, but that's it. But you're only going to feel, if you do feel that uncomfortableness or that embarrassment or whatever, you're only going to feel it for a day. It's just a day. And then, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, and then we'll be dealing with this again on St. Patrick's Day, okay? And I haven't, in all honesty, I haven't done a lot of research on St. Patrick's Day, but I can already tell you my opinion is that whatever is at the core of it, it's going to end up being satanic. Yeah, that's what I just really think. And this is the last thing I want to say. A point was made in a few of those audio clips that these all lead back to Nimrod, and I want to, if I can remember, if I have time in one of the future episodes for this podcast, I want to talk about Nimrod and who he is, and also say a little bit more about roses, because I don't think that I just learned this about maybe 2 years ago about roses, and it was really interesting. But I'm gonna try to maybe see if I can remember to put all of that in a few of these other episodes that are coming up. But thank you for those of you who are listening. This was a very just an impromptu episode that I did. Had some downtime at work, and I just remembered, oh my gosh, it's the 12th, because for some reason I thought that I would be able to do it for this weekend, but the 14th is actually going to be Thursday, so it's not, I realized I was not going to be able to get it out, that it would have been late. So this is a real impromptu episode, but I hope that it's informative. I hope that it encourages and inspires you to come out of Babylon, to let go of and abandon these pagan holidays, and don't have no shame in doing it. Okay? They do not give a rat's tail about us. We should not give a rat's tail about them. Do not worry about hurting their feelings. Do not worry about what they're going to think, what they're going to say. We worry about what the Most High thinks, what the Most High says. He is the source of our blessings. He is the source of our protections. If He's upset with us, then we have a problem. Okay, shalom.